We don't have any intro. Randy's fired. Here's Linus. He's reacting to our first 4K video. That's right. There it is. Dun,
Linus.
Dun, 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 dun. We got the Panasonic GH4. Right now we're using a Panasonic GH3 with a totally different lens, but I'll make some videos with the GH4, some photography videos maybe. Yeah, everyone loves those. And some videos. Make some videos. Just showing you guys exactly what that thing can do, because it can do a lot. It can do 4K, it can do 4K Ultra HD, it can do 1080p, 60 frames per second, and 200 megabits per second as well on the 1080p. So it's a pretty wild little camera, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. So yeah. Anyway, 4K videos, more to come. And you'll be seeing some 1080p videos as well, because a lot of the videos that we have already shot that we have not edited, which are like 20, they're all still 1080p. So sorry about the 1080p, guys. I hope you guys can deal with measly 1080p. I know it's rough. Anyway.
We can't even stream greater than 1080p, so it's like bleh.
Yeah. The Surface Pro 3 has been announced, and is it on sale yet, Wendell? It's you can buy it now, right?
It is on sale. We have one on the way.
Oh my God, you ordered one?
Yeah, we ordered a Surface Pro 3 with all the fixings, except for the dock, because the dock's not apparently out yet. But here's the thing. Microsoft, get your stuff together with DisplayPort. So this one officially supports 4K, but so did the Surface Pro 2. However, if you used a multi-DisplayPort hub thingy so that you could run multiple DisplayPort monitors off of that DisplayPort 1.2 thing, the firmware was all jacked up, and it took Microsoft like 6 tries to fix it, and I don't know if it's fixed. Like, I had a Surface Pro 2 for a little while, and I played with it, and it was like, yeah, this is kind of cool, but then that was like, oh, you mean I have to deal with this, and I can't run two 1920 by 1200 monitors off of this? Well, screw that. And so, you know, back it went. I'm still rocking the Surface RT, though, which is, you know, just pathetic. But, so the Surface Pro 3 will be here. I was convinced by the tech demo. The i7 version and the 512 gig version is not going to be.
This is Dan Siever with The Verge, and I'm here in
like the end of August, I think. So this will be the i5 version with 8 gigs of RAM.
So you said you did not get the i7 version, right?
No, because it's not going to be out until August 31st. The i5 version is expected to ship June 20th, and the i7 512 gig, i7 256 or 512, according to the site, was shipping August 31st.
So, like I said, they moved to a 12-inch screen, and they're really trying to replace both the laptop and the tablet. That's really how they're marketing this. They even had an Apple. If you guys watched the video, they had a part where they were weighing an Apple and an iPad versus this, because they were like, with this now, you don't need an Apple, or you don't need an iBook or an iPad or a Mac Pro or whatever the hell people carry around. It's not a Mac Pro. It's an iMac. What do they call their professional laptops? I don't even know.
MacBook Pro.
MacBook Pro, not Mac Pro. MacBook Pro. The pen that comes with it's pretty interesting. It's a pen that has weight, and I really like the design idea with the pen. It's not designed to be a stylus. It's designed to feel just like a regular pen. It's designed to feel like a pencil, you know, in your hand. It's got weight. It's got some girth to it, and you take it out and you click the back of it, you know, and as soon as you click the back, you can start writing on it just like it was paper, and then you click the back again and it saves it to the cloud and all that stuff. So that could be pretty cool for people who are taking notes or wanted to jot down an idea quickly and that sort of thing.
I use a LiveScribe pen, which is a real pen with real paper. It's special paper, but the notes that you take go into the computer. That is worth its weight in gold. The pen, all the technology's in the pen, but it works like that. But I have tried and failed to use pen-based input on everything. I can't get used to it. It doesn't work. It's too slow. It's weird. Blah, blah, blah. But in the demo, for what they were doing with this, marking up documents and things like that, I was sold on the demo. I think I really would like to play with it. But the other piece of technology that sold me is that the display stack on this one is very interesting. They've taken the LCD and they've basically fused it to the glass. And so if you've really been trying to do fine detail work with a stylus on a screen, you get sort of a parallax effect because you're drawing on glass, and the LCD is some number of millimeters below that. But this is so thin that the effect here is really not as pronounced and maybe is not as off-putting.
It could be pretty interesting. I'm probably not going to move to one of those because I'm not too into smaller devices like that. I do like having a tablet just for reading ebooks, but that's pretty much all I use it for. So I'm still a bit afraid of it. And with the last generation Surface 1 and Surface 2, it didn't really do it for me. So I'll wait and see what you think about it. And I'm especially going to wait and see how the i7 version is. But if I did have to get one, it would probably have to be the i7 version just so I can use it. And I would have to carry around a mouse with me, even though they've improved the touchpad. The touchpad's now like way more sensitive, and it's also like I think 78% larger or something. So they've improved all of those things, yes, but still I don't use touchpads anyway. I use a mouse, so I'll keep my eye on it.
I think if I can drive 2 reasonable monitors off this thing without having to resort to USB 3 adapters, that this could become a perfectly reasonable workstation, even the i5 version, because programming and most of that kind of stuff doesn't really matter, and if I really need the horsepower, I've got remote desktop for that. It is definitely too big to use one-handed, but I think that's true of the iPad as well. I mean, the iPad is really too big and heavy to use as a reader, at least after having gotten used to a Nexus 7 tablet. A Nexus 7 tablet is like the best one-handed device on the face of the earth, because it's just so light and so easy to hold. And even the iPad Mini feels kind of bulky and weird in comparison. But this, I don't think works as a one-handed device, but as a two-handed device and maybe watching movies and things like that, it's maybe okay. But the aspect ratio of the screen is different than most other things out there. It's tall, like the Chromebook Pixel.
Very strange. And I really don't think that we are the target audience. So the whole, use case where you're talking about using multiple monitors and that sort of thing, I don't think that's what Microsoft is really going for with this. I think they're going for people who need a powerful computer in their pocket, but don't really need a million displays and are not going to be. I don't think this is going to be a video editing workstation or anything like that. But I don't know. Maybe it would be kind of cool if they did support multiple displays, but we'll just have to wait and see.
The Surface Pro 2 did, but after some finagling. So this one, hopefully, they'll have it right out of the gate. The other thing is the display resolution on this is 2160 by 1440.
It's a very interesting display. What is that aspect ratio? I guess it says here on the Verge article, and I should probably look at it. But
yeah, it's an odd aspect ratio. It's almost 4:3, but not quite.
Very strange. All right, let's move on and let's talk about AMD. Now, last week we mentioned that AMD might just have some new x86 CPUs coming out, and we don't know if those are going to be uber high-powered APUs, or we don't know if that's going to be, a true next-gen FX processor. We're not sure, but there's another thing that we do know now, and that's that AMD has licensed the SATA Express technology for their upcoming 2015 chipsets. So we're likely going to see them on the APU chipsets, but possibly on a new, very powerful x86 part. Who knows? That could be interesting. It's kind of funny here. This Kit Guru article kind of downplays this, like, yeah, AMD's getting, SATA Express, but that's not really that fast anyway. And I guess they just have to do it because that's the new trendy thing. And it sounds like the author here just really hates AMD. I mean, just reading the first couple paragraphs, I'm like, wow, this guy just hates AMD. I bet if he was writing about Intel, he'd be like, Intel is jumping aboard the super high speed SATA Express. That's the take I got from Anton Shilov here.
SATA Express is a stepping stone technology between SATA and PCI Express. So it's neat.
Yeah.
But it is a stepping stone technology.
I mean, it is going to run off the PCI Express 2.0 bus, and the bandwidth is going to be a maximum of 1 gigabit per second. So, yes, it's not a huge leap forward. But, I mean, if they use SATA Express idea with PCI Express 3.0 or 4.0, we're talking like 4 gigabits, 40 gigabits per second? What am I saying? 4 gigabits per second, right?
40.
Yeah. 40.
If it uses all the lanes, I mean, that's just the raw PCI Express bandwidth. Now, in reality, it's not really going to be that, but...
Well, at that point, you're not even going to have, flash media that can keep up with it, so...
At that point, you want to look for things like NVMe.
Yeah. All right, we'll make a quick mention of this. Intel has confirmed that the 14-nanometer Broadwell will be shipping in time for the holidays. They've had some trouble lately getting, I guess, the production was just not happening. So it's good to know that the 14-nanometer parts are going to be out, hopefully by the holidays. Hopefully, we think, and all that kind of things.
But they wouldn't really confirm if they were in mass production right now. So it's like, we don't know what the yields are going to be like either.
I hope this is not a Daikatana situation.
Oh no!
Where they keep saying that it's going to be out tomorrow or next week or April. No, by the holidays, by next year the holidays, and then by the time it comes out, it's terrible. Like well, this is terrible, guys. We're already on 4 nanometer. What is this? I don't think that's going to happen though.
Yeah, probably not.
No. All right, moving right along here. You looked at the very lightweight Avaton board from ASRock, and now Gigabyte has just released a press release. They've released a press release. They've press released. I don't know. They press released on a. They pressed release on a press release. Yeah. So they've got their own Avaton base board coming out, and look at all those network ports on the back. Got lots and lots of network ports here. We've got VGA on this as well with serial port. Tons of connectivity options on this. I'm very curious to check this little guy out.
Yeah, the Supermicro had an Avaton board that had the 4 Intel adapters, because officially this chipset does support up to 4 of these Intel adapters. The other one's IPMI. So
yeah, the last one right here that I'm circling with my mouse.
And I noticed that this uses the same A-speed IPMI chip that we saw in the other review, and it's got 4 full-size DIMM slots. So this might be an epic little router board, because you could still run another 4-port adapter in the PCI Express slot, or you could break out this by 16 into 2 by 8 slots with the appropriate adapter cable. So you could go nuts with this thing, and of course it's got 6 SATA.
And they also say that the Avaton can support up to 32 gigabytes of memory as well. And
Well,
look at those.
It was 64 gigabytes on the other board, so it may just be that you can't get 16 gigabyte DIMMs right now.
Yeah, that's weird. I mean, I wonder if it actually will support 64 gigabytes if you could find, 16 gigabyte DIMMs.
Intel's got some sort of weird hardware bug since Ivy Bridge they didn't fix in Haswell with supporting memory densities that are 16 gigabytes. So we'll probably never see that on Haswell, and that makes me sad. But I think that they did correct it in the Avaton hardware. At least that's what our engineer friends tell us. So theoretically, you could get 64 gig on one of these, but we've never laid hands on a 16 gigabyte DIMM to test it.
I might talk to Gigabyte. This would be fun to play with for an upcoming NAS build. I need a new NAS too, because my NAS is about full. So this is probably one of my first choices right here. I might look around and see what some other companies offer as well, but I
sent them
the
an
way
email,
this one looks.
And I also asked if we could get the GSR22 PDT, a 4-node dual socket 2011 2U rack mount mini cluster, which we would then install Proxmox on Zen and Hyper-V and all that. And we do all those tutorial videos for you guys. So that's kind of nice. It's 4 machines, 4 independent machines, and a rack mount chassis. Each machine has 2 2011 sockets and 16 RAM slots. So yeah.
They're going to be like, what the hell are you guys going to do with that? Take over a city? Maybe.
The funny thing is, I think if we put one 2620 per chassis, I've got enough 2620s in the house right now to do that.
You just got them like laying around. You're using them to like prop up stuff. And like, oh, this chair's wobbling. Hold on, let me use a 2620 so that your chair can be more stable.
We've got a project, but this might be kind of fun. It's also got 8 2.5-inch hot swap bays per node. So if you were going to build a mini Proxmox cluster or a high availability, a Hyper-V cluster or whatever, this would be the box to do it in.
Let's talk about some science in relationship to hardware, or maybe it's hardware that has a scientific edge. Now, we talked about magnetic levitation trains we haven't talked about them, but it's been sort of a buzzy thing in the world for a while now. There's been like shows on Discovery Channel with uber fast trains that go from New York to Los Angeles in 2 or 3 hours, and then trains that go across from England to I guess, or from the UK. I'm not sure what you guys want me to say anymore. They go from London, the city, to New York City in a couple of hours. So we've seen all that sort of stuff before, but no one's really put one together, at least not a large one yet. Well, in China, they are working on one that could reach speeds of 1,800 miles per hour, and they've actually built a small prototype. The prototype is not big enough to go that speed, but they have physically built a prototype. They have something. They actually have it. It's not just a bunch of drawings on a piece of paper. It's not just a show on the Discovery Channel. They have something. Where's China getting all this money? Oh, yeah, from us. Just building everything because, yeah. And they're not even really collecting on their debts yet. If they collected on their debts, they could build 10 buildings a day instead of one every 5 days. whatever they're building.
Uh,
What was your theory on Chinese growth? I want to hear people's response to this. So China, let me just say this statistic. In China, there is one building completed, one skyscraper completed every 5 days.
and
That's crazy.
it's not that, it's just that a lot of skyscrapers are being constructed in parallel. But my theory is that a lot of the reason to do that is a lot of the economic indicators that the world uses to figure out who's doing what and how well things are doing and the credit ratings and things like that are stats like how many new homes are built, how many skyscrapers are built, how many this, that, and the other. And so somebody has looked at all those reports and said, oh, well, we'll just build a whole bunch of skyscrapers. But there are cities that are basically unoccupied. There are cities that would support a population of 1 million that only have 5,000 or 6,000 people that live there in order to keep the lights on and in order to keep the infrastructure, because the mostly agrarian population is not ready to move into the city. And I don't know, it's weird. I don't understand. I don't know what the details are, but that seems sort of weird to do that for that reason.
We haven't been to China recently, so we should probably say that. So there's a mild bit of ignorance there. We don't know. Maybe everyone's running around building buildings and living in them, and living downtown now, and that's going to be the new thing in China. And I'm not sure if I'll get a proper flavor for it, because we're going to go over to Shanghai before we head over to Taipei for Computex. So I mean, Shanghai is already one of the biggest cities in the world. It's like twice the size of New York City, but it's going to be interesting to see how things work over there in comparison to how things work over here. So it could be an interesting trip. Anyway, speaking of going across the Pacific, China also says they're going to build a China, Russia, Canada, and America train line. And it's gonna be a much slower train. It's going to take about 2 days to go from China to America. But still, they say they're going to build it. And right now, there's nothing actually built at this point, but they say that the technology is there, it can be done, and they are going to do it. That's kind of interesting as well.
This is probably good because nobody wants to put lithium batteries in airplanes, because airplanes tend to go down if they're carrying a lot of lithium batteries. So now we're going to put the lithium batteries on trains.
I wonder if they build like trains long enough. I wonder if they could improve the shipping and all that. I wonder the shipping trains, cargo trains. That would be kind of an interesting idea. I know most of that's done by freight or it's done by ocean liners or that sort of thing. But maybe some like stuff that you need to get across the ocean way faster, throw it in a train, but not quite fast enough for an airplane. This is kind of a stupid idea. They'll just throw it in an airplane and spend the extra money, won't they?
I could see, yeah, I think so. I could see doing the train if it's like a super high-speed bullet train, but we haven't even been able to pull off the high-speed bullet train between like New York and DC. So, I mean, it seems like we would have had that about 20 years ago, and economically, if we had a high-speed bullet train between New York and DC, that would be, really amazing, and people really want that, and we still don't have that.
Yep, not here anyway. You know something else we still do not have? We still do not have solar roadways. We don't have them, but we could have them. There's an Indiegogo campaign right now going on for solar roadways, and there's a couple behind this out in Idaho. And the couple, I'll just go ahead and play this video in the background here. They have been working for years. They've known each other since they were 3. It's like this heartwarming story, right? And they are developing solar panels that can be used as roadways. And there's like a glass element on top that's extremely strong. It's like an uber-tempered glass element. It's going to last a lot longer. In the cold environments, they're going to be able to install something that will use the power that's being generated from the sun and keep the panels just warm enough to make sure that snow does not build up. So you're not going to need snow plows anymore. And then furthermore, beneath the surface of the ground, they can run cables, they can run fiber optics, they can run power lines. No more need for all that infrastructure. And then in another channel underneath, they can run like waterways and that sort of thing. So I mean, here's one of the guys who works on it. It's incredibly interesting technology, and yes, it's going to be very expensive. That's what I think. A lot of people look at this and they're like, are you serious? Roadways everywhere made out of solar panels? That's going to cost a fortune. Well, yes, initially the cost is going to be high, but let me tell you guys what it's going to do. Cost is going to be high. It's going to employ hundreds of thousands of people. So that's really good. You're putting money into the economy with the initial high cost. However, over a period of time, you're making the environment cleaner, and you're also saving money on power bills. So the long-term effect of all this is that you're actually going to save a lot of money and you're also going to reduce the pollution. It's just a win-win situation. Why are we not funding this already?
I'll tell you why I'm not funding it, and that's because a 7-inch glass hexagon from them costs $10,000. If a 7-inch glass hexagon from them costs $10,000, that roadway is not just going to be expensive, it's going to be astronomically expensive. It's going to be more than the GDP of the entire planet from 0 to 2014 AD. I mean, this is just completely insane. If they're going to do this, they need to demonstrate how they're going to do solar really fast and really cheap. And the energy storage, like the science of the energy storage, I could maybe see if they're tying into a grid and storing it somewhere more efficient, but each one of these cells having their own energy storage system, I don't think that's going to happen.
No, I believe the idea is that it's going to be tied into a grid underneath there's going to be like wires running underneath it, but go ahead.
Well, it's like, if they're saying they're going to pave the earth in lithium, no, that's never going to happen. But yeah, I think that it would have to be something underneath. The problem is that storing that much energy that far away, you're going to lose a lot in transmission, because you really need to convert it to high voltage AC to carry it a long way. You're not going to get that from current modern solar cells. And so if I saw more science in this, I would be more excited about it. Like, we figured out a way to make solar cells that automatically generate high voltage AC so that we can put it in transmission lines and have it carry thousands of miles. I'd be more excited, but I'm not excited. I mean, it's cool. It's a cool concept. I'd love to see it happen. I don't think so.
All right, well, I mean, to be fair, the $10,000 is what they are charging you, and they'll give you a 7-inch glass hexagon. So, I mean, of course, it's going to cost. They've got to make some money on that if they're going to send you a 7-inch glass hexagon. So, let's say that they even make $4,000 or $5,000. That's still $5,000 for one 7-inch glass hexagon. But okay, they raise a ton of money, and right now they're doing this all, in like their house or their laboratory somewhere in Idaho or wherever they are. Okay, what if they raise enough money to get some research done, and they're able to make it so that these things cost, I don't know, maybe $1,000? Would that still, you think, be too much to ask?
I don't know. It would really. We should look at what it normally costs per, linear foot of roadway, and anything that's probably more than 5 times more expensive than that would probably be completely unfeasible. Realistically, I mean, if we're talking about the volume of production to do all of the roadways, and the cost comes to like 3 times the normal cost per linear foot, then yeah, you get to a point where it's totally feasible.
I guess we'll just have to keep an eye on that. I'm pretty sure it's going to get funded here on Indiegogo. How many days do we have left here? And we're over, scrolling up to the top here. We've got 9, actually, I'm not sure. We've got 9 days left, and they're almost 40% of the way there. It's 3,500 or 30. It's $354,000 is what they've raised, almost 355,000, and they're trying to get $1 million. So I don't know if, I mean, and a lot of people, even if you guys fund this, that doesn't mean that it's going to happen. You're just funding them to take the next step in their research. So
I think a less ambitious goal would be like, they've got demos of like parking lots, and I think a tennis court and some other things like that. I could see like maybe at the high end country club, tennis court or whatever. It's like, we're going to roll these out as a proof of concept in country clubs all over America. That might get people that have the industrial connections together enough to maybe do something interesting with this.
Yeah, if there's another video here, I'm going to leak. I'm going to link to you guys. It's just called Solar Freaking Roadways. Of course, it's absurdly positive about the whole idea of it. And it's nothing but praise and nothing but good things. But yeah, Wendell, I think you did sort of balance out their argument with a bit of realism. Sadly, it was necessary.
I'm really I'm cautiously optimistic about the future of such technology, but until we can roll off solar cells like, a laser printer, I don't know.
I'm having fun talking about solar stuff. Let's talk about some more solar stuff. Did you ever used to chase ants around with a magnifying glass when you were younger or anything like that? Or
I think we all did.
Yeah, I think it was kind of a thing. We did that. I think we did that when we were in grade school together, didn't we? We were out there with like a pair. I think it was my I had those giant glasses, you know, like that my mom got me because they were in style, and I was like, I look like an idiot, Mom. And she was like, that is what everyone is wearing. I'm like, who's everyone? But yeah, I had those glasses that were this big.
Well, in
so
fairness,
I had to wear them around.
In fairness, those insects were a part of the conspiracy to make us all think that Bigfoot was roaming around.
He wasn't roaming around. Oh, those were just people from Muddy Gut. Anyway.
No.
So apparently there's a glass sphere that uses sort of that same idea to channel the solar energy onto a very small area. So apparently it's way more efficient. I'm very skeptical because it just seems, I mean, now you have to have this giant glass element, you know, to channel the sun's energy. It's going to be a lot hotter too. But apparently they're saying that this makes it way more efficient. So that's just another idea of things that are going on in the solar, you know, revolution, right?
Yep.
But here's a really. You got anything to say about that before I move on?
No. I mean, it's just it's good to see these kind of sort of incremental developments.
Hey, look, you know, it looks like a piece of artwork. That's kind of cool, you know. I could see this hanging out in Chicago by, you know, the giant bean that's in Chicago. I could see them. I could see everyone in Chicago replacing the bean with one of these things. So no hate from Chicago, guys. I like your bean. It's nice. Your kidney bean or whatever it is in the middle of the city. It's pretty cool. 5 people in Chicago watching right now. So in India, right? In India, they're saying that by 2019 they want to have solar power in every home. Right now in India, there are 400 million homes without power. That's, according to the website, more than the population of the U.S. and Canada combined. Is that right? Is that really an accurate statistic?
Yeah, that's probably about right.
Damn. So they're saying that they want to have power, solar power, to every home. That is really wild, but it's really cool to you know, see the government doing that. That's an initiative that I think will bring power to a lot of people.
This is maybe a better application of like the Indiegogo thing, because it's like, what are we really talking about? So everybody watching, when we say, you know, solar power to the homes, that sounds like this big grandiose thing, but it's not. I mean, if you're in a situation where you don't have electricity, if you could get low voltage LED lighting in your house, I mean, think about how bright a single LED is, and the cost to manufacture that is like less than $1. And a small solar cell that's like maybe 2 square feet, 3 square feet, something like that, in a lead acid battery, you know, ancient 50-year-old plus technology lead acid batteries. Those 3 things together could have a transformative effect on those 400 million homes, and we're only talking about $25, $20, $10 maybe of materials. So it's not really like we're going to put, you know, tens of thousands of dollars of solar panels on a house that can then be used for lighting and solar hot water heating and things like that. It's more of a, we can do lighting and small appliances like a cell phone charger, and back to that, you know, stuff that we were saying at the beginning about how a lot of these people are probably, mobile phone is going to be the most advanced piece of technology that they have. A very small, very inexpensive solar cell can power all of that technology. So that's going to be the revolution.
It's good use of the money. All right, let's move on. And this this article here about you know, de-extincting the woolly mammoth. I didn't really mean to put that in the tech. I just had it open here. So let's have a little bit of fun with this since it's on the screen right now. May as well have some fun with it. Wendell, if you could de-extinct one animal that's of course extinct, what would it be? One prehistoric. It doesn't have to. You know, it doesn't have to be prehistoric. It can even be something like that's recently extinct. What would it be?
I don't know. I'm trying to think what would have the most delicious meat.
You're purely motivated by what can I marinate?
It would be funny if we accidentally, like, there was some species that would have been sentient if they had, you know, culture and some other things, like we bring back the Neanderthals or something, I don't know, and
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I don't, you know, it's like the interbreeding with whatever else. That might be interesting from a scientific standpoint. Not that I'm interested in eating Neanderthals. That's option B. Option A would be, you know, we need some delicious animal, but I don't know what that would be. Maybe like a megalodon or something, because you could feed an entire country with one of those.
I mean, as long as it's not too tough, I mean, should be just fine with that, right? Okay, I'm going to ask them over there. Guys, what animal that's extinct would you guys bring back from the dead if you could?
Velociraptor.
Okay, so Jimmy says Velociraptor.
That's not a good idea. I would not permit that if I were on the scientific board.
Wendell said if he was on the scientific board, no, not happening. He does not permit that.
Why not? You saw how well it went in Jurassic Park.
All right, Pistol.
Giant sloth.
Okay, Pistol. Pistol is exactly the same as me. I would bring back a giant sloth, just because I want to. I want to watch.
Dodo bird, I changed it. Dodo bird.
Dodo bird. All right, dodo bird.
Do you
All right,
have
so dodo
inside
bird and giant
knowledge that
sloth.
those are extra delicious? Oh, a dodo bird omelet. Oh, that'd probably be really good.
Oh God, we're gonna get so much hate mail. From
Well, I mean, I wouldn't eat the omelets until we had a sufficient number of them in the wild.
wait up for like a dodo bird enchilada is what you want. Wendell's like, what's every single thing I ask? He's like, I wonder what's the tastiest. Okay, let's just move along here. I don't even know why that article's open. Scientists are creating new incurable diseases in labs.
Oops.
Why are they doing this? Okay, now of course they're doing this because in the creation of these things, they may be able to make some breakthrough discoveries, but some of these things that they're creating there's no way to cure them, and if they were to get loose in the world, everybody be dead in 20 years, possibly, maybe.
I just want to read you the first paragraph here. It's almost as if the author had looked at this and said, I'd better impart a very subtle warning. So that is, swine flu, or H1N1, had been dead for 20 years when it suddenly reemerged in 1977 with a curious twist. The new strain was genetically similar to one from the 1950s, almost as though it had been sitting frozen in a lab since then. Indeed, it eventually became clear that the late 1970s flu outbreak was likely the result of a lowly lab worker's snafu. Dun 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 dun.
Okay. There's a lot of different trade-offs we have to make here. Is the research and then the potential discoveries that we're going to get worth the risk of being the next extinct species? I don't think so. I don't know.
It's okay. Well, it's tough though, because we went through this with Russia before the Cold War, and there was one episode where we talked about this, but antibiotics are not going to work anymore because the critters that antibiotics works on are evolving. So we're in a situation where what does work? And it's like, well, modified viruses work. If you modify a virus to attack other organisms, other bacteria, whatever we're trying to deal with, it works. And that had been done by Russia. Russia did not go the antibiotics route before the Cold War. They went sort of the retrovirals route. And, of course they have antibiotics too. I mean, that's goes without saying, but they developed more of that technology than we did. We thought it was too dangerous. And so we decided to develop antibiotics because antibiotics were the safer way to do that. Oh no. I'm out of, my camera died.
The camera ran out of juice.
So viruses are probably the way forward when it comes to curing disease and cancer and things like that. We had a story just last week where a modified measles virus was used to cure some sort of terrible blood cancer. So this is the way forward, but it's insanely dangerous. We could totally have zombies tomorrow. I mean, not really, but look at how rapidly H1N1 propagated. We don't, even in the modern world, we don't have the controls to effectively stop the propagation of that sort of an outbreak. And that's a problem.
It's amazing how many diseases are actually the cures, and it's kind of funny to look at the medical community as a whole, and just they're fixed on two things. They want to eliminate deadly viruses, and they want to keep deadly viruses around so they can study them because they need the studies for, future applications to stop diseases. But one thing we haven't really mentioned that much is warfare. Now, could these things be stolen and used in the wrong hands, or could they be used like they said with what was it, Russia threatening way back when? Didn't we have some scares and all that? I was an infant way back when during the Cold War period of time, but
certainly the U.S. has its share of biological weapons that we have, but we promise not to use. Honest Engine.
It's just no. Why do you have them? Because we need them. Why do you need them? Well, we're not going to use them, but we need them.
Well, officially, it's, I guess, classified, and the only ones that I know for sure of that exist are biological agents that are so toxic that tiny amounts could wipe out entire populations. but I don't know that that's any better or worse than a virus. So, yeah.
Let's talk about some stuff that's way over my head. How about that? Let's talk about creating matter by colliding photons, not protons, photons. So you collide light particles and you create like an electron and like also like the antimatter contrapositive of that, I suppose. That's pretty wild.
I want to know more about it. This is too light on details because, you know, I don't know. I don't know that there's anything like, what's the breakthrough here? Because you can mess around with electrons and get electrons giving up energy to emit photons. I mean, that's a totally normal thing. That's like something you learn in Physics 101. So this is sort of not really anything. I mean, it is kind of, it's interesting, but from like a particle, like the equations to do this have always been there. We just didn't know how to do it in the lab.
Yeah, they've been there since what, 1934. Someone proposed this, but he couldn't actually perform the test to prove it.
Yes, and so it's like, all right, how many photons would we have to collide in order to get a proton to pop out? And I have a feeling that's an astonishingly large number of photons, and so this is not really going to lead to anything super practical because there is an ungodly amount of energy in a single proton.
No, there's a lot of people waiting for like a particle materializers. Like, hey, I want a new thing, and it's like, oh, there it is. Oh no, I would like a steaming plate of stew, and it's like, oh, there's your stew. Or Earl Grey tea, hot. There it is. It just materializes. So all these sort of Star Trek things pop into one's head when really all they're doing is creating an electron. I mean, that's pretty crazy. They're creating matter from light, but like you said, there's probably a lot of energy loss in the process.
This might be enough energy to do some antimatter research, which would maybe lead to other things, which is good. But at the end of the day, we're talking about creating about 100,000 electron-positron pairs. So we're not even talking about creating a proton. We're talking about creating electrons and positrons, which is positron is just an opposite charged electron, similar mass. So I want something as massive as a proton before I get excited.
All these tiny things, and you're like, massive as a proton. But yeah, you're right. It's a way, way, way bigger. I forget the scale. It's like one thing is the size of a tennis ball, while the other is the size of a football stadium. So, yeah. but still tiny. Anyway, let's talk about video games. Let's have a little bit of fun here. Wolfenstein. Right now, it's we have a coupon code that you guys can use. So Wolfenstein, everywhere else it's pretty much $59.99. You guys can grab it for $48. That's right, $48 from us, because we are considerate. Now, Wendell, you picked up Wolfenstein, and meanwhile, I've been playing Doom 2. Like I've been replaying that, so I'll probably be streaming some of that in the next coming days as well. But Wolfenstein, you've been playing this at 4K, right? How is it?
I've been playing this at 4K just as a masochistic experiment. It's on a GTX 770 with 2 gigs, and so 2 gigs is not enough to play at 4K. In the game, I'm experiencing texture pop at 4K, so that means that when I look somewhere, and then the textures sort of pop in.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Well, no, that's I think because there's not enough RAM, but I'm not sure.
This engine in particular, this is the same engine that they used on Rage, and
Yes.
the video game Rage had some of the most extreme texture pop ever, and it was like all the reviewers were like, "Oh my God, the texture pop!" And it was like, unless your drivers were exactly this, or unless your graphics card was exactly this, you're going to get really bad texture pop. And I think they fixed it with some patches, but I'm not entirely sure because I didn't play Rage. But it's using the same IdTech 5, is that what it is? And it's OpenGL 3.2, not 4. Whatever.
Yes,
So,
this is IdTech 5, so it's sort of a special engine. Doom 4 is coming, and it's going to use a modified version of the engine, so it's not. I don't think it's not expected to be a revolutionary jump. However, it's really interesting that I'm able to play. I'm not sure what the frame rates are yet because I literally just started yesterday. I need to take a look at it, but it is entirely playable at 4K on the default settings with the GTX 770 2 gig. Now, is it the most awesome experience ever? No. Is it playable? Yes, it is playable. So I think with like a 780 Ti, especially if you've got, if the memory is the reason for the texture pop, if you've got more texture memory, if you've got more memory on the video card for textures, That might actually be really impressive because Metro Last Light, for comparison, 8 frames per second at 4K, maybe not even at the otherwise default graphics settings. It's like, oh, let's see how 4K works on Metro Last Light. No, Metro Last Light was having no part of that.
Metro Last Light doesn't even like 1080p. Doesn't, not at all. Anyway, you just mentioned Doom 4, and there's a very scary and gloomy report here from a former employee of id Software. They left, and when you're hearing something from a former employee, it could be something that's golden, or it could be just a disgruntled employee throwing mud. But the thing that really scares me about their report is that they say that the things are not going well with the Doom team. It's been 2 years, and in the last 2 years there were 140 developers, and now there's only 50 because people are getting fired or people are quitting and that sort of thing. And they said, the real problem is there's not as much direction. That's kind of a theme with id Games. They don't really have too much direction. They're just like, hey, let's make a fast game where you shoot a lot of stuff. And there's not really, at least from the old, back in the old days, it's just like, no direction. Just go. Just make levels. Have fun. So apparently the management comes in every now and then. I guess some management from id Software, ZeniMax, whatever. They look at the game, and then they tell them to completely reboot everything, scrap almost everything, and start over. And that's happened a few times, they said. So that's kind of got me a bit scared, or at least concerned about Doom.
Yeah, that actually, the situation with id Software and ZeniMax and Carmack, which is one of the original founders of id, is a terrible, just messy. If you want to get a backgrounder on it, go read The Masters of Doom. You gave that to me, actually, and I've read it now, and so it's like, oh, I have the whole story now. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's a really interesting story, and it seems like patterns are still repeating themselves, even with Carmack being gone now, and, of course, Romero's gone. And something else, I highly recommend Masters of Doom. A lot of people, just when you meet them, they're always like, yeah, man, Carmack was awesome. Screw John Romero. But when I read the book, I was like, I kind of like John Romero. He's maybe more chaotic, but I really identify with him. Carmack seemed more like a very rigid, must work all the time kind of guy. So it's an interesting read, but I don't think either one of them were at fault. And it doesn't seem like things were as, I guess there was less animosity than I thought. When I read the book, I was like, oh, they don't hate each other. They just don't work together anymore. Is that the kind of what you got from it?
Carmack was actually the last person to leave the company. And as smart as he is and coldly logical as he is, I'm surprised that, at least in the book, there was not a lot of time in the book that suggested maybe that Carmack was thinking that the reason that so many of the original team was leaving over time could be an internal problem with id Software, or his personality, or just the way that the project was structured, those kind of things. I would have think that so Romero left first, Tom Hall left, and then eventually Romero left, and I would think that they could look at that and say, okay, yeah, this is not, like, they could be grown up about it and look at it and sort of figure it out. But with Carmack often doing things with Oculus Rift, and ZeniMax suing Oculus basically for stealing. If you read the lawsuit, it's like, you stole Carmack. It doesn't really say that, but it really does treat Carmack like a piece of property, because he is like a human computer. I mean, he's really,
walking code.
Yeah, he really is walking code. And he really has an interesting perspective on the whole patents IP thing. I mean, we talked about this a little last time or the time before, but his perspective on that is a very honorable, hacker code, geek code perspective, but it's not really the business perspective. And because he was in charge of id, that was law, but he's not really in charge now. So that's maybe a problem. But he also is very wealthy, so he could just go off and do whatever he wants. So I suspect that he really just wants to be close to the Oculus technology, and that's really all that he wants, and that the other people should just leave him alone.
Yeah, it seems to be that he thinks that not so much Oculus, but just VR is the next step, and that's the next thing that he wants to play with. A lot of times I don't feel like he cares about what's going to be awesome or popular. He's like, I want to do that. That's the next thing I want to do. I want to go build little rockets that shoot up in outer space, or I want to go build the next graphic engine, or it's basically, he doesn't care about the money. He wants to go do something. And now he's like, I want to go do VR for a little while. And things are getting in his way. So I'm sure that's going to frustrate him. and vex him in ways that he hasn't been vexed before, because I'm not sure if he's been in this sort of a lawsuit. I know there's been some back and forth with different companies and some rough edges with different companies, but this is going to be a battle that I don't think he's had before, or a type of battle that he hasn't had before.
He likely looks at this as sort of just an annoying distraction that's getting in the way of the code, and he wants to elevate himself above that to an upper echelon to be able to do that. I don't have his programming talent or his insight into one specific thing, but I can tell you that when I'm programming, that I could definitely identify with, it's like you need to shut everything out. You need to be in a clean white room of concentration with no anything to distract you, so that you can get in the zone and sort of see everything and have it all make sense. And in the book, it's like, I'm going to come in at odd hours and I'm going to do this, that, and the other. It's a really interesting book, and it really is a really interesting history of first-person shooters in the PC game industry, because in a lot of ways, id created the whole of everything that we have on PC, because PC was not built to be a gaming platform originally.
Yeah. I don't know. We just have to keep an eye on that. I think the world would probably be a better place, in my opinion, if we just everyone leave John Carmack alone, let him go into a room and program all day, and see what happens. Just leave him alone. Leave Carmack alone. Anyway, let's talk about more developers. The Witcher 3 developers have vowed that they will have no exclusive content for any platform. These guys are awesome. They're going to release The Witcher 3 DRM free. I mean, this is a very, very hotly anticipated game. Is that a term that people say? Hotly anticipated?
I don't like talking about hotly anticipated games, because historically, in 10 years of hotly anticipated games, 9 out of 10 hotly anticipated games are terrible, terrible disappointments.
I don't know I think a lot of those games were overhyped, and I'm not sure if this one is really, I think the community is getting excited about it more than they are actually hyping things themselves, and I think a lot of it is their philosophy. The community is getting excited about their philosophy. DRM free, no exclusive content, it's basically like no BS. We're just making a game and we're going to give it to you guys, and you guys can play it, you guys can buy it.
Certainly, everything they've said is a formula for a winning game, and so I'll say that that's encouraging. Yeah,
I think this one might be a bit different. Anyway, speaking of a bit different, they are the Metro Redo. They're I guess they just announced Metro
Redo, Metro Redux.
I always say Redo and Redux back and forth, but yeah, I don't know why I do this, but yeah. So they're releasing this, and it's basically the first couple of games packaged together with sort of an HD treatment.
So they're taking the two games that already came out, repackaging them into one game, and upgrading the graphics?
At least that's what I'm picking up from this article on PC Gamer. So there's got to be something else to this. So they said it's just going to be better graphics, some new features, and all the DLC packs are going to be bundled in.
Huh. Okay.
I mean, I guess Last Light's going to be a part of this as well. So you get all the Metro games, but Last Light already had such good graphics that, I mean, to me it looks better than like Crysis. It's ridiculous. What are they going to do to this? Maybe wait 10 years for this, guys. Okay. I mean,
I don't think I'm going to buy this, because they're saying that you get both together for $50, and it's like, no. If you haven't bought it yet, maybe wait for this and then get it.
I don't know. Who knows? Anyway, there's one more interesting game I wanted to point out now. The game Evolve, we kind of skipped over this at PAX. It was generating too much buzz, and that's a scary thing whenever something just generating a lot of buzz. However, I just watched one of the newest trailers, and it's becoming a bit more interesting, because it's starting to look like the game Primal Carnage. And that's an Unreal Engine-based game. I'm not exactly sure what engine this is based upon. But this is a game where you're going to have a couple different teams, and if you're part of the humans, you're going to have like the assault class and several different classes, a medic, and then a class that's like a trapper or whatever. And then the other class is monster. So you get to be a monster, and you get to level up and get bigger and bigger. So it's not just a standard multiplayer shooter where everyone is, I guess, on an even playing field. It's like the human team has to cooperate to take down the monster. So this trailer actually made it look pretty interesting, and that's mainly like I said, because I have played what's the game I just mentioned, Primal Carnage, which was a lot of fun. The different teams. Then one team is the dinosaurs, and you have to compete against one another. So it's looking pretty interesting. I think we should pick this up and maybe stream it or something.
Yeah, we should definitely take a look at it just because the gameplay mechanic is worthy of kudos.
Yeah, monsters that can level up. You level up your monster by, I guess, while the humans are trying to find you, you can hunt other critters and stuff and eat them and grow bigger and whatever. So you can level up 4 times, and once you've leveled up 4 times, everybody better just run.
I'd like to see a version of Diablo 3 where you could play as the monsters from a first-person standpoint.
So kind of like a first-person Dungeon Keeper Diablo 3 engine type thing.
Well, no, ordinary people can play Diablo 3 in the normal Diablo 3 thing, but you can also play the monsters from a first-person point of view. That might be kind of fun.
He sprints a lot.
Oh no, the audio came on. People get angry if I leave the audio on. So yeah. All right, so that's the hardware episode. Yeah, we will see you guys in some other videos. We got a ton of videos coming up, and then we're going to Computex like in this week almost, right?
Yes.
Like,
And
right
we've
now.
almost got the store online, and we are for sure confirmed that we're going to have monitor arms at a discount. And check it out. I got my monitor batleth. This is great.
Gonna fight some Klingons with that thing.
It's a crescent arc thingy that holds 3 monitors but on 2 arms. And so when you've got a post like this one, you can put your center monitor right on the post. So it's really an efficient setup compared to one monitor, each monitor having their own arm.
We also have the Cherry MX keycaps, and we're getting some new T-shirts printed. And did they already ship the stuff to the new store, Wendell? Is that?
Not yet, because we've got to repack some of the other stuff that you left. But that should happen first part of next week. So
Cool. So new store is pretty much almost finished. Pretty much almost, yeah. So many indefinites there, but you guys have been waiting a while, and we've been working hard to make it happen while we're also doing a million other things. So very soon, thank you guys for all the tech support. You guys are helping us stay alive, and we now have Jimmy. From all the tech support, we have Jimmy to help us do video and edit.
Jenny.
You can stick your face in front of the camera if you want to. We're waiting for. Okay, we'll do it later. All right, guys, we will see you in the next episode.